Okay, folks, welcome to Chapter 11, Gender Stratification. We are going to start on page about 310. And this first lecture in this chapter is largely going to review a couple of terms, and I'm going to talk about sex and gender and put this in the context as to what additional, I'm going to talk about these things this way first to kind of set the stage as to how I would like for you to start thinking about this in this chapter in the next for the next lecture and for the assignments that you're going to have for this week. So I'm going to move on over to the dry erase board to talk about a few things here. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to distinguish here between sex and gender, okay? So sex is going to be biological. All right? And so when we think about gender, we're thinking about something that's more learned. Sex identity and gender identity are two different things, okay? Now, we have a tendency to think in our culture that because of your sex, then your gender identity is this way. Okay, now, certainly in the last 10 years in the United States, we've seen changes in our understanding about not only sexual identity, but gender identity. Now, it's hard to separate sexuality from these. Okay? How do people express sex and how do people express gender in the form of sexuality? But these are three different terms, okay? We might get into this just a little bit, but the first thing that we want to do in this short lecture is to talk about the differences between these two terms, okay? So, we have an idea about what we mean about biological differences between males and females. Now, you're going to watch a video after this lecture that hopefully will give you a little bit of perspective as to how varied that sex identity can be, okay? And hopefully that will shed a little bit of light into this understanding about what it means to be male, female, and something beyond that, right? So if gender, talking about gender being something that is learned, this goes back to socialization. And you start thinking about, well, how do we learn to be male or female, okay? And so, what role, for example, and let me erase this. Let me show you something. So you think about gender, and if we start getting into the weeds on this a little bit, you could think about males and females. Now, if we were in face-to-face class, we would be having discussion on this, okay? What does it mean to be male and female? I'll just share with you all when we have this discussion in my classes, a lot of times we'll talk about gender roles and what are the expectations of being male and being female. And a lot of times I hear this in the last several years when we have these discussions in class, we say, okay, if you think about the average male, the average female, what are the expectations of being male or being female? We hear for males, you have to be the breadwinner. You have to be exhibit behaviors of authority. You have to not cry. You have to be more of the hands-on kind of a person. And then we talk about, well, what are the expectations of being female? And again, this I'm just sharing with you what students have told me in the past. They'll also will say that, well, these are changing. And they have changed. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to be this way, but if you think about what the norm is, the expectation around these things, right? So women are the nurturer. They are more emotional. They are the housewife. They take care of things. and that sort of thing. Okay, so as you think about gender roles, what it means to be male or female, the expectations, where do those come from, right? And so this goes back to socialization. We can think about how important our lives are from birth until we start to develop a sense of identity of these things. What goes on from the time you're born until, when do you know what it means to be male or female? Middle school, I was going to say new parish, but elementary school. And what role do significant others and who are significant others? Those might be parents, maybe siblings, maybe extended family. Oh, she's so cute, or oh, he's such a boy, or she's a tomboy, or whatever, right? So, how do significant others socialize us into our gender? And as a parent, where do I get my understanding about what it means to be male or female? From my experience, right? And so I'm passing on expectations from culture to my children, for example. So not only is it, when we talk about ages of socialization, right? It's not only family and parents. We also can think about the generalized other. What messages do we receive in society at large? How do the media influence this? So these, again, are agents of socialization. Media could be mass or social media. I know some of you have younger brothers and sisters that might be in elementary school or middle school. How is social media influencing them in terms of who they're supposed to be regarding males or females? There's a lot of bullying that takes place now because our society has not done a very good job of helping young people to better understand how to interact with people on social media and what's expected not to happen on social media. So, this is going back to thinking also about sexuality, right? So we are going to get into some of that probably the next lecture. So some other agents of socialization: family, media. We'll put school right here. And yes, I'm kind of moving up the ladder of significant others and generalized other. School and parents are closer to being significant others. Teachers, of course, friends. We'll put friends, peers right here. Those are the agents of socialization. How do they influence our understanding of what it means to be male or female? Okay? So, as a learned behavior. So, I'm going to stop this early, short presentation in this chapter